Kalpaprabhu, who is manning the booth. He's not feeling well. He was really, really sick for the last few days. And but still he made it a point to come, so thank you. So we'll do the 15th chapter. It's one of the perpetual favorites at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. For every Annaprashana ceremony that we have for the child, we read this chapter, and then we'll discuss today why we read the chapter. Hare Krishna. And we'll do the 15th chapter of Gita. I'll give a brief introduction, but before even we start the introduction, we'll start the Mangalacharan prayers. I would also like to welcome everyone who's online. For a minute, Satyasankal Prabhu, if you can just show me who are all there online, that'll be great. Hare Krishna. So happy to see you all. All right. We'll do the Mangalacharan prayers and then we can get started. And if you want to know where the Mangalacharan prayers are, for those who have book, you can see it on introduction. There is an introduction to Gita in there, it is there. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Thank you. So, till now in Gita, we have completed 14 chapters. And in this semester, we started from chapter 10, and we are completed 4 chapters, and we are in the chapter 15th today. From chapter 10, because chapter 9, where we left off last semester, Krishna's instruction at the end of the 9th chapter was Manmana bhavavat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaro mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijaniye priyosime. And he said, always think of me, become my devotee, offer homage unto me, and offer your worship unto me, and in this way you will come to me without fail. In the 10th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna, because Krishna says, think of me, how can I think of you? After offering prayers to Krishna, Arjuna says, how can I think of you? And Krishna explains at length his opulences of this world, or the vibhutis, that Krishna explains in brief. He says that I have unlimited number of opulences. These are a brief description. And some of the opulences, he says, is that I am amongst the body of the water, I am ocean. Among the birds, I am Garuda. And he gives so many examples like that. In the 11th chapter, Arjuna expresses the desire to see Krishna pervading in this universal form, and Krishna shows that universal form. In the 12th chapter, Krishna talks at length about Bhakti Yoga. One of the questions that is asked by Arjuna was whether the worship of impersonal form is better or the personal form is better. And Krishna explains at length the qualities of Bhakti Yoga. The 13th chapter, we talked about Kshetra and Kshetrajna. What is the field of activities and who is the knower of that field. Of course, there are a few other things, Jnanam, Jnayam, Jnanagamyam, and Prakriti and Purusha. Those are covered in the 13th chapter. And because in the 13th chapter, Krishna says that everything happens by the modes of material nature, 14th chapter, Krishna explains at length what are the modes of material nature. And he goes at length, and we discussed last time about it. In the 15th chapter, which, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the favorites at ISV, because we recite this during Annaprashana and other kind of activities. So, 15th chapter is titled the Purushottam Yoga. Sorry. I'm sorry. In this particular verse, Krishna mentions about his ultimate opulences. Just 1 minute, I'm so sorry about this. I'm really, really sorry about that. It's a little urgent, and I can explain later why. But in this chapter, it is divided into few things. The first few verses, Krishna talks about the material world as a banyan tree and how this material world is. This is one of those chapters that actually, when you read, you will see what is my position and what is Krishna's position. This opens up the whole field of activities. So let's start with the first verse. Actually, if that's okay, Satya Sankalp Prabhu, let's do the last paragraph of the last verse. Let's do that because this kind of sets theme. Okay. And if you see the purport to the last. Okay. So here Krishna says, Srila Prabhupada writes, while one is performing, okay, actually Vicky, we can please do the paragraph, please. Sorry, I didn't get your good name, Prabhu. Laksh.
While one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of the heart. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. Thus one gives up the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. The second weakness of the heart is that as one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature, he becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. The problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of the heart. In this chapter, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart, and the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottama Yoga.
Excellent. So, what is the breakdown Srila Prabhupada writes here? He says that in this, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart, and the rest of the chapters, from 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottam Yoga. All right. So let's go back to the first verse, because this gives the theme of this chapter. Kindly repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Moolam Adhashakam Ashvattam Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Saveda Ved. All right, Kennedy, you want to do the translation, please?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas."
So this imperishable banyan tree Krishna is talking about is the material world. And you can see he says the roots are upward and the branches are downward. Now in the material world, it is exactly the opposite. The roots are downward and the branches are upward. But Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport that you can actually find such an example. And does anybody know what example is he talking about? Yes.
A tree reflected in water.
Sorry, tree reflection in the water. Thank you. That is a good example. Because if you see the reflection of a tree in the water, then you will see the tree is actually going, the branches are going down and the root seems to be upward. As in, if you see from the opposite side of the bank, then you will see that the roots seem to be going upwards and the branches seem to be going down. And Srila Prabhupada writes, this is so because this material world is a reflection of spiritual world. And one example you can see is if you draw a circle on the piece of paper, right? Like draw a nice circle, and the diameter of the circle, you fold the paper, right? If you fold the paper and if you open it, you can see half the circle is above that folded line and the half the circle is below the folded line. The top half is the spiritual world, the bottom half is the material world. It's just a reflection of spiritual world. But here is the deal though. If it's a reflection, it is even in the reflection, if you see in the water, you will never see the exact reflection. You will see, because if the water is moving because of wind, the reflection or the actual image of the tree is completely distorted. The same thing is with material world. Even though it is a reflection of the spiritual world, it is distorted. And when we say distorted, it means that everything that is there in the material world emanates from spiritual world. And that kind of statement actually shocks people. What are you talking about? If everything is a reflection, is an emanation, what is there in the material world from spiritual world, then why even go back to spiritual world? I'm happy here. If all the troubles and the tribulations and the pains of this world is coming from spiritual world, why go back? Is that a fair question to ask or what? Yeah. Yeah, we'll discuss a little more about this intriguing question. It's a question worth asking. So please go through the purport. It's really beautiful purport. We'll take time to understand it. But the next two verses actually describe this material existence. So kindly repeat after me. Adaschordvam prashrutastasya shakha guna pravruddha vishaya pravala adascha mulyan anushantatani karmanu bandhini manushaloke. Translation. Laksh, please do the translation. Sorry? Okay. You have to turn on the mic.
The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive action of human society.
Thank you. So here, the banyan tree of material existence is mentioned. The branches of this tree are nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the object of senses. The tree also has its roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive activities. When you say that the roots are going down, which means that we are bound to this material world by our own fruitive actions. And then Srila Prabhupada goes at length, if you can see the first here. Online, anyone wants to read the first paragraph?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, please, Sukamala Mataji.
The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of living entities, human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested accordingly.
Thank you. So this takes some time to read. It seems abstract. I'm not going to deny that. At one point, the very fact that how do you categorize this material world? The genius of Krishna is that he's taken this vast material existence and he's encapsulated in two verses. Just, it's such a, then you can see the genius of Sri Krishna on how he, because there is not much time to tell what you are, and neither can he show you. Because he showed to Arjuna, he showed the entire material manifestation. He gave special eyes. You could see past, present, future, all the demigods, material modes, everything is present there. But for us, poor souls, Krishna said, okay, I'm going to give you another description of material world, which is the inverted banyan tree. And this is how the banyan tree looks like it. So to kind of get it into our head, it's not easy. And we pray to Krishna and our previous acharyas, please give us the mercy so that we can understand this. But if we cannot fully understand it, we take it on the factual basis. We say, okay, Krishna, this is what you have told us. Okay, we'll accept it. And then we'll know a little bit as we do repeated reading. So far, so good. Okay. Because twigs are sense objects, and these are nourished by the modes of material nature. It's all nice, but when you try to realize it and understand it, it'll take a little bit of, we accept it. The other part is this banyan tree, please understand that this banyan tree can actually consume acres and acres. The world's largest banyan tree, I believe, is in India, in southern part of India. And it's been growing for 600, 700, 800 years. And it is so vast. You cannot go to that tree and say which is the root. Where did this tree originate? Which single roots originated? It just originated, spread, another roots, spread, another roots, spread, another roots. By the time it is there, you will not know where did it begin, and exactly that's what Krishna says in the next verse. So far, so good. These are like two descriptions of material world. All right, we'll do a few more verses. Kindly repeat after me. Should I go a little faster or slower? As in like the repeat. Okay. Let's try a little faster. See how we go. Narupamasyeha tatopalabhyate nanto na chadir na cha sampratishta ashvattamenam suvirudhamulam asangashastrena dridhena chitva tata padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yata pravritti prashrita purani. Rasa Purnima Mataji, can you read? Or anybody else online? Okay. Malti Mataji? Yeah, okay. Smita, okay, go Mataji. Smita Mataji.
Yes. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One example, Krishna says that this form of this material world, you can neither perceive it. You don't know where it begins, where it ends, what's the foundation. We are talking about us, tiny jivas, here in this world, in Silicon Valley, Kali Yuga. Brahma, when he came into this material world, we know the story from Bhagavatam of how there was no creation. And at the beginning of creation, Krishna expanded into Balaram. Balaram expanded into the first quadruple expansion of Shankarshan, Vasudeva, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. From that Vasudeva came the second quadruple expansion of Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha and Shankarshan. And from that Vasudeva came Mahavishnu, who lies on the ocean, and when he exhales, infinite number of planetary systems go from the pores of his skin. And then that Mahavishnu or Karana Garbha Karanadakshayi Garbhodakshayi Shri. Thank you. From that Mahavishnu or Karanadakshayi Vishnu, millions of planetary systems went from the pores of his skin, and then he became the Karanadakshayi Vishnu, and then he became Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. He entered each planet and filled half of that football-like structure. He filled with water, and he lay down on that water. And then when he lay down, at least in this planetary system, because what is that? Laghu Bhagavatamrita says, not necessarily every time it happens that Vishnu has to lay down and from his navel a lotus has to come out, then Brahma has to come out. It says it can happen in any way, but for now, in this kalpa, in this lifetime of Brahma, Mahavishnu or Karanadakshayi Vishnu, he slept on that particular ocean, on the Anantanag, and then from his navel, a lotus came and Brahma came. And when Brahma came from that lotus, he said, where am I? What is the root cause of this lotus that I am sitting on? What is the basis or the foundation? And he dove through the stem of the ocean, trying to find who is the source. Now, if Brahma cannot find who is the source, we will have a lot more difficulty in doing so. So Krishna says that nobody can understand where it is. And it is a fact. We are so tiny. So where did this come about? What is the root? What is the origin? How is it sustaining? It is sustaining. I mean, like, people might say, it's happening randomly. Thank God it's not happening randomly. Think about it. If things were happening by random, today we have sun. When will the sun come? Who knows? It's all random. Maybe 4 days later. So we'll have 4 days of darkness and then sun. Sun might come in 4 days or not 4 days. Imagine the situation like that. Oh, there is no air at all. Air is randomly coming. No. Fortunately, we have a structure in place where we are guaranteed, because forget God, forget astrologers, forget any sort of spiritualities. Even materially, we calculate where the sunrise happens every single day, yes or yes. And tomorrow we have that guarantee it will come. Somebody must have put that structure in place that sun will come tomorrow. How do you say it's random? If there is a rules that are happening, if there is a seasonality that happens, we are in winter. How long will the winter last? It's random, who knows? It might last 1 month, 10 months, 2 years, 4 years. Yeah. No, it's going to last for a certain time, and then, spring is going to come, then summer is going to come. But when we have such a fixed way, and when we see this material world working in such a perfect thing, there must be a person who must be driving this. Yes or yes? Another example I'll give. Maybe we'll come to verse number 16 or 17, then we can talk as well. We'll do a few more verses. But in this verse, Krishna is talking of the most important thing he says is, Asanga shastrena dhridena chitva. Asanga shastra means with the weapon of detachment. Shastra means weapon, and asanga means detachment. So he says, the more you try to get involved in this banyan tree, trying to be happy, the more you will have no end to the unhappiness you will face. This is the important point that he mentions. Laksh, here, take this pen, and you can give it back to me later. No problems. So this is the important point, because if you don't have spiritual knowledge, then we are doing everything to be happy in this material world, and ever more person is frustrated. Krishna is saying that's not the route. The route is asanga shastrena dridena chitva. By the weapon of detachment, you just cut the attachment, or cut this forest of material existence. So far, so good? All right, thank you. Next verse, please. He gives further qualities of the person who actually is eligible for getting release from this material world. Kindly repeat after me. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha samnyer gacchantya padam avyayam tad. All right, online still.
I can read.
Yes, Malati Mataji.
Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom.
Thank you. Let's come down a little bit, please. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada has. So let's do the first paragraph online. If anybody wants to do the first paragraph, please.
I can do, Prabhu.
Yes, Naveen Prabhu, go for it.
The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself a Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person.
Can you repeat that statement again, please?
For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person.
Yes.
Pride, shall I continue?
Please.
Yeah. Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for a brief time and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all the things complicated and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considered the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These 40 associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. When one has an understanding of the things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions, happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He is full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. It's not easy to overcome the desire for fame and for prestige in this world. I'll be brutally honest. And because I have been in this material world since time immemorial, those desires are deeply rooted within my heart. And in an age where social media has become so prevalent and prominent, not only the desire for adoration, but it has to be really instant, has come in the heart. Not that all social media is negative or we are against, but the fact is that we have to be careful whether the social media is for the pleasure of Krishna or for the pleasure of my false ego. If it is for the pleasure of Krishna, by all means, use the social media as much to broadcast the glories of Krishna, pen your realizations about Krishna, and inspire others by your posts, and so on and so forth. But if it is mainly for one's own self, actually studies have proven that social media can cause depression among people. If it is because it gives such a jolt to the mind, thinking that everybody is doing well compared to me, and it can actually put you in depression. But please understand that I had to cancel last 1 or 2 Bhakti Sastri classes because what Satya Sankalpa is going now, I was undergoing at that point of time. I don't think, I'm not much active on social media, but I don't think I would have taken a picture of myself during the peak fever that I had, running nose and puffy eyes, and then I would have all tousled hair and then posted it on the social media. Look at me, like me. Everybody will post the best versions of themselves. But Krishna is saying that as long as you're in the material world, their pain is always there, and false ego makes you say that I'm doing well. Even if you ask a person who is in the hospital about to depart from the material world, you ask him, how are you doing? He says, I'm doing okay. No, it's not okay. No, one of the things is that you contemplate on this world in the negative direction, it can actually say, why are you, being so negative? Sometimes we get asked that question. We are not being negative, we are being realistic. This is the nature of this world. And when one accepts it, then one says, I'll at least pursue. Then tatapadam tat, at least I'll go and surrender to Krishna. If I have a great hope of this world, then I'll never surrender to Krishna. I heard a story from one of the lectures that there was a beautiful Brahmana. He had a family, he had children, a wife, very dutiful, very faithful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Narada Muni requests Vishnu that, this devotee of yours has been so faithful throughout his life. Now please, open the doors of Vaikuntha so that he can be liberated from this material world. And Vishnu says, yes, I have already opened the doors for him. He can come. And then Narada goes to this person. He says that, look, you are a dutiful Brahmana and you have done so much service throughout your life, the entire life for Lord Vishnu. Now it's time to go back to Vaikuntha. And your children are grown up and married. And that Brahmana says, yes, that is true. But I still see that they are not very practical and prudent in their life. They spend a lot of money on groceries. So Narada says, what do you want to do? Well, let me meditate on being a buffalo. So I will be born as buffalo and I can give them milk so that they save money on grocery bills and I can serve them. So in the next life, he becomes a buffalo and he gives a lot of milk to the family members, and the family members are happy that their income is going down, or their grocery spending is going down rather. And then Narada says, well, you've done your purpose. Now you can go back to Vaikuntha. The problem is they are very lax security-wise. I see them that they sleep at night. They don't bolt the doors. They don't take care of all the security details. I'll meditate on being a dog so that I can become a dog and I can guard this family against any thieves and robbers who might have evil intentions to steal. The point is, the inverted banyan tree of material world is very, very grabbing. In fact, devotees often wonder that, why am I not advancing? Please understand always this eternal truth. Krishna is more eager for us to come back than we are to get out of this material world. It's a fact. So, as much as possible, we stay in the association of devotees and always keep the hope alive that this place is something I shouldn't be looking too much forward to. We need to do our duties, we need to take care of our health, and so on and so forth. But an overindulgence in the material world is not going to ultimately make me happy, because this is going to be taken away from me. And we'll come to the verse number 15 when I'll discuss at more length. So far, so good? All right. I'll do at least 10 verses and then we can do. And then he says, having gone to such a place, one should surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna now describes what that place is and how does it look like. So kindly repeat after me. Na tad bhashayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mamaha. Online, anybody who didn't get a chance to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can read.
Mata, please.
Translation. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world.
Thank you. If you come down in the purport, Satya Sankalpa Prabhu. Still?
Should I continue, Prabhu?
No, Mata, we are good. We are good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Still, Satya Sankalpa Prabhu? Still? The last paragraph. Go up. Yes. One should be captivated by this information. Srila Prabhupada writes that verse. One should be captivated by this information. We are captivated by so much of information. What is the next stop of my favorite rock stars show? Which show? Or my favorite team, when are they going to play next, and which city they are going to play next? Or so many things, what happens to my career, and will I get a promotion? Year end, we see all the performance reviews and promotions and so on and so forth. So one is captivated by a lot of information. Srila Prabhupada writes, one should be captivated by this information. One of the things is, how do I know if I go back to spiritual world, I'll never come back again? Because this goes back to the question of the fall of Jiva. I don't want to get into that. Much has been said. But this verse or this words of Krishna should be our source of great hope. When Krishna says something, that is not going to fail, or it's not going to not happen. And we are here in this material world, and for some reason, we are put into this situation, and Krishna is promising that if I go back to the spiritual world, I'll never have to come back again here. Natad bhashayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramama. He says that once you come to my abode, you'll never come back. It's something worth thinking about. Next verse, please. Now, here is the beautiful verse. Let's discuss this. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatanaha Manaha shashtani indriyani prakritistani karshate. Anybody online who didn't get a chance? All right, Satya.
I can do that.
Sorry?
I can read.
Please, yes.
The living entities in this conditional world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with these six senses, which include the mind.
Thank you. So the living entities are we jivas. Each of us are spirit souls. Krishna is saying that they are eternally my entities. One example Srila Prabhupada gives and our acharyas give is the photon of light that comes from sun. Like sun has innumerable number of photons, we are one of those photons. Or if there is an ocean, vast infinite ocean, we are a drop of that ocean. So Krishna is saying, you jivas are my fragmental parts. You are eternally, and he says, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, eternally you are my parts. So this establishes the fact that Krishna is supreme and we are eternally his parts. This theory that somehow I become equal to God is not supported by Krishna himself. Because a part can never become whole. A part is always, because the Krishna specifically uses the word Sanatana. Because one of the arguments of that particular philosophy is, I am conditioned and I am right now very small, but when I become liberated, I become really big and I become equal to God. But Krishna is saying, eternally you are my part and parcel. Sanatana word is used. And then if you are in this material world, he says, Manaha Shashta Indriyani. Manaha means mind, Shashta Indriya. Pancha Indriyas are 5 senses. Manaha is the 6th. Manaha Shashta Indriyani. So 6 senses including the mind. Prakriti Sthani Karshati. If you are in this material world, you have to struggle. Does anybody not struggle in this world? Please raise your hand. I'll be very happy to hear. If that is the case, you are in the verse number 16, which we will come to. You are a special category of a soul. But if you are in this world struggling, then Krishna is saying, get out. Don't think that somehow or other you will be perfect here. Come back to me. This is Krishna's open invitation. Bhagavad Gita. Next verse, please. Beautiful purports, please take time to read. Text 8. Shariram yadavapnoti yachapyutkramatishvaraha Grihitvaitani samyati Vayurgandhami vasaya. Online, did everybody complete?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another.
Thank you. So when Krishna mentions Mamaivaamsho Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manaha Shashtanindriyani Prakritisthani Karshati, when the fight against the material nature happens, here Krishna is saying how that fight continues. It is not just my fight happens for once and I'm done. He says that just like air carries aroma. I was actually walking one day, I go on a walk. One day it was spring season and we had this beautiful jasmine that was in somebody's front yard. And then I was walking by I could smell the beautiful, beautiful jasmine that was coming in. And next day was garbage collection. And then as I walked past somebody's home, they had put the garbage in that, and the trash bag for some reason broke and spilled open all the contents, and the flap of that garbage was open. And the air, needless to say, was very putrid and foul-smelling air. So is air pleasant smelling or foul smelling? It's neither. Wherever the air goes, it carries that. And Krishna is saying the soul is something like that. If you are in association based on your conception of life, then you carry that kind of conception and get a body. Just like air moves over the object of the scent and carries the scent. And Srila Prabhupada writes here in the purport, I'll just read for the few things. Here, living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move it to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. So this is the great benefit of human form of life, is that we get certain control on what our next life is going to be. And if you have this knowledge, then rules and regulations make sense. If we don't have this knowledge, rules and regulations seem meaningless. Why not? I can be free to do whatever I want to do. Well, if you do whatever you want to do, eat whatever you want to, and do whatever you feel like coming, then the conception of life you are building around during that lifetime is that of an animal. And in the next life, you will get the body of an animal. But if you have the conception of a demigod, then the next life you will become a demigod. So that is when the human form of life, we get it, we have this great benediction of shaping our future. Animals can't. Animals go through a progression. They have a progressive life cycle. You have to go through that path. That's about it. From birds to beasts, it is there. Bhagavatam clearly gives, trees to insects to birds to beasts to two-legged, four-legged animals. Ultimately, you come to human form of life. And at that time, if you misuse it, then you again jump back into animal form of life. So when you have this, then it makes sense. I'll give a simple example. If you want to get Olympic gold medal, sir, what's your good name? Deepak. So Deepak wants to get a gold medal in running, for example. Now, will Deepak every day go party, eat pizzas, and practice maybe once a month so that you can get gold medal? No. Like you are very, very strict with your diet, you go do this, you're very disciplined, and newspapers write articles and articles about Olympic gold winners. Oh my God, they had such a rigorous schedule and practice, and they glorify those people who are self-disciplined. Well, our Olympic gold medal is Radha Krishna. So we are following these rules for achieving them. So how are we any different from the people who are seeking, Olympic gold medal? Because Krishna is saying, look, if you, in the human form of life, you are responsible karmically, which means you stay under these guardrails, or I have given you these guardrails. If you stay under the guardrails, then you will be okay. If you don't, it's your choice. So Krishna is clearly saying it. Anyways, more questions, comments, concerns before we jump to the next 10 verses? Because Krishna is now going to describe about his personal charge. He says that you are my jivas. Jivas go through. Actually, we'll do one more verse because it's in line, text 9. I will do two more verses actually. Shrotram chakshuhu sparshanam cha rasanam grahanameva cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Online, anybody? Everybody done? If everybody...
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes, Mata.
Translation. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects.
It's nice, because Krishna is saying that if I cultivate certain lifestyle, then I will get a certain set of senses which are grouped about by mind. So my mind is here, my senses are all here. Ears, eyes, nose, tongue, everything is grouped around my mind. And in the same way, you can see every animal actually has the same thing, and they enjoy certain sense objects. A tiger, for example, likes to eat meat, and that's how the conception they have developed. And Krishna is saying, all right, you enjoy this. The vultures enjoy dead bodies of animals. Krishna is saying, because you cultivated that kind of lifestyle and you like dead flesh as your object of enjoyment, because vultures do enjoy eating it, right? Otherwise, why would... So Krishna is saying, I'll give you that chance. See, Bhagavad Gita actually, Krishna is not restricting, but telling the jiva what are the possibilities that you have. If he doesn't tell that, then you will be just really under the spell of your mind. So powerful is mind that it will just drag you every which way, and then it will give you one life after next. Krishna is saying, no, you don't need to listen to your mind all the time, because it can be very dangerous if it is uncontrolled. So you better listen to me and bring the mind under control for your own benefit. Text 10. But then the next question is, why can't I see it? Right? I see death every day that is happening. I see old age every day that's happening. Then why can't I see this transmigration of body? Why can't I personally see it? Actually, one other thing, when we did the 4th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna, because Krishna says, I spoke this knowledge to sun god. Now, Arjuna and Krishna, technically in Mahabharata, were of almost same age. Krishna was slightly few days or few weeks older than Arjuna. Otherwise, they were pretty much of same age. And then Arjuna says, really? You spoke this knowledge to sun god? Sun god has been around for billions of years. We are just born now. How can you tell me that you spoke this knowledge to sun god? And Krishna says, there is a slight detail you missed. Many, many births you and I have undergone. I remember all of them, but you don't. Some people ask me the question, Arey, this is bad, no? I said, how is it bad? Well, Krishna should give me memory of all my births. Then I will become immediately spiritually realized. I said, if you don't have the desire to go back to Krishna, he will not give you the memories of past lives. And I told an example. Have ever one of us been in a really, tense situation, dangerous situation, where you thought your life was almost at the edge? Maybe you are driving fast and you saw a car that was parked on the road, but you observed it late and you hit the brakes, and then you'll almost go. Something like that. Do you remember? It gives pleasant memories. You'll feel very pleasant remembering that. No, it's very painful. You shudder at those thoughts. You don't want to remember those thoughts. Imagine Krishna giving you the memories of previous lifetimes of how you were so rich and how you were so beautiful and how you became ugly and then you lost your life and you got the next life. If you have the knowledge without remembering Krishna or without having Krishna consciousness, I guarantee you will never want to get out of the bed. Well, so what's the point of all this? Anyway, I remember my past lives. I'm going to die now. Krishna is very merciful, so he wipes out all the hard disk so that the memories seem fresh. So how do you know about the past life? Who can see? This is the verse Krishna says. Kindly repeat after me. Utkramantam stitam vapi Vihunjanam va gunanvitam Vimudhananupashyanti Pashyanti jnana chakshusha. All right. If everybody is done online, Satya Sankalpa Prabhu, please do the translation. Unless you need to grab a mic. Here.
The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this.
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada was once in London and a very audacious young man came before him and he said, Swamiji. And Prabhupada said, yes. You told us if you are not careful, you can become a dog in the next life. Prabhupada said, yes. I don't care if I become a dog in the next life. And then Prabhupada said, you have my full blessings. So the point I'm trying to make is that a person who is trained in knowledge can actually see how this life is transmigrating. You don't need Krishna to give you the memories of past life, but if you are equipped with the knowledge of Gita, then you will automatically understand how this is happening. And this is such a relieving thing, such a hope-giving thing, because Krishna is saying, when you see this, then you will actually realize that, I don't have to struggle this hard in the material world. Better let me struggle for my spiritual advancement rather than struggle in the material world. I need to do what I need to do in the material world, don't get me wrong. But to take that body as all in all, which I've been awarded billions of times, and work on it as if this is the ultimate truth. Krishna is saying that is not the value in the human form of life. All right, I'll take a few questions, comments. Surprisingly, I thought I would be able to wrap this in much shorter time, but hey, we can take questions are important. Any questions, comments, concerns? If not, we can wrap up, and I promise you we'll get more time during the end as well. All right, let's do the next verse, 11th. Kindly repeat after me. Yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantyatmanyavastitam yatantopyakritatmano nainam pasyantyachetasaha. All right, back to Vicky, and then we can.
The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try.
Thank you. Let's see the purport. In the present day, there are so many so-called yogis, and there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy, and they have no other information. So, yeah. Anyway, very nice purports. Let's continue, please. Here, Krishna actually, after mentioning that this material world, its nature, and how jivas are part and parcels of Krishna, and how he talks about his own planet. Now he talks of next 4 to 5 verses, he talks of universal maintenance and personal maintenance. These are all the universal maintenance. Let's do some verses. Yadadityagatam tejo Jagad bhashayate khilam Yachandramasi yachagno Tattejo vidhi mamakam. All right. Kennedy, please, and then Laksh, and then Deepak.
The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me.
So here Krishna is so clear, that that from where all this is coming from. And without sun we cannot live, and without moon and without fire it's impossible for us to live. So next verse, please. It's talking of universal maintenance still. Gama vishya cha bhutani dharayamyaham ojasa pushnami chaushadhi sarva somo bhutva rasatmakaha.
I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables.
So here Krishna is so clear, because it's mentioned, the scientists have said that if the sun goes even 2 inches or 3 inches, I am not a scientist by no stretch of imagination, but if the planet Earth goes 2 inches towards the sun, then we'll all be turned into ashes. Earth will be completely burnt. That's what I was told. I'm not a scientist. Somebody who's a scientist can confirm. Now, what is the force that is actually making sure that the earth doesn't even stray 2 inches from the sun? It is so precise. The sun is millions of miles away, and the distance to which earth can move to the sun is so short. Tell me if it is random. Oh my God, North America completely burned down, say people in India. Why? Because randomly over the night, earth just moved a little bit. Random. Who knows how it happens? Or, oh my God, the angle of the earth tilted a little bit, all the polar caps melted, and all the life in the earth is dead because polar caps are... No, it's so precise. The orbit of the earth is so precise around the sun. And it's been like that since time immemorial. If Krishna is saying, by my energy they stay in orbit, he is so openly saying that I hold life. If I don't enter into the orbit of the earth and hold it in its position, there is no question of life. Just like, anyway. And then moon is another example. It is mentioned that the flavor of the vegetables, the flavor of the fruits, Hare Krishna, Sitarani Mataji, the flavor of the fruits, they actually become possible by moon. Right? All right. Next verse, please. This is personal maintenance, and this is what we do during our Annaprashana ceremony. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapanasamaयुक्तः Pachyamannam chaturvidam. No, you have to push it up, and then when you see the green light, it means go.
I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff.
Thank you. Here Krishna is, therefore we pray to Krishna so that he is the fire of digestion. It's called Vaishvanara. Vaishvanara is the fire of digestion. And if there is no fire of digestion within the belly, you cannot digest the food. Think about it, right? We eat food, but we have no clue how it gets digested, how the food breaks down, how it's so complex food. You know, people eat everything together. There is sweet, there is sour, there is bitterness. Everything is eaten in a meal. How does it get digested? How does it get broken down? And how does the energy spread to the body? And that is Krishna is saying, I am doing it for you guys. And there are 4 types of food stuff. Food that is chewed, licked, sucked, and sipped. Those are the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. And that's where even in the Guruvashtakam prayers it is said. Chaturvida, no, what is that? Thank you. Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangan Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So that is Chaturvida, which is 4 types of food. You know, in the modern context, we will not understand. But I'll tell you one thing. Try 1 month to eat food with no utensils. If you get fruit custard, how are you going to eat it? No spoon. So you dip your finger into it, lick it. Sucking, if you take a mango, right? In India, we don't cut mango like that. You know, you get mango, you just squeeze it, soften it, and then you pop the top of the cap, and then you suck it. It is suck, it is lick, it is chewed, it is sipped. So 4 kinds. If you have the utensils, what are these guys talking about? 4 kinds. I have a spoon for everything. Whether eating, sucking, licking, doesn't matter. But if you have no spoons, you only have your fingers, then it's a whole other cup of tea. That is where the difference comes in. Because you might be thinking, what are these guys talking? Yeah, that is what is being talked. If you have kheer, right? If you have kheer, which is sweet rice, liquid sweet rice, how are you going to eat it without spoon? You just take it with the 2 fingers and they become the spoon. Anyways. Next verse, please. And then one is digestion, the second is memory. Krishna talks about memory and how he helps the jivas, the famous verse. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smritirjnanam apohanam cha Vedaischa sarve rahameva vedyo Vedanta kritveda videva chaham. Somebody online, please?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, Sukamala Mataji.
I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and am the knower of the Vedas.
Thank you.
It's also my favorite verse, Prabhu.
That's perfect. So Krishna is always sitting in your heart, and he knows what you like and what you don't.
Yeah.
So here Krishna is pretty clear, because think about it. Forget, highfalutin birth after birth. I forgot my keys. You struggle if you misplace an object, your purse or keys, your phone. Of course, phone you have some options, but you forget, and then you have to rack your brains. Oh, what did I do last? Where did I see it? And then somehow it clicks. Who gave you that? If it was your own power of memory, you shouldn't have forgotten in the first place. But think about it, right? It's one of those practical aspects where Krishna, we say, okay, thank you, Krishna, for helping me remember what I did or where I did. But if Krishna wants, he can give forgetfulness. Because we said, Krishna, I want to enjoy your world without you being in center. Krishna gave us this material world, but he hid himself away. And he wiped out our remembrance of him. The Jiva thinks, yes, I am the controller and I am the enjoyer of this world. But if you pray to Krishna, hey, Krishna, please help me remember you, then Krishna will say, I'll give you remembrance of me. I'll help you remember me. So the Jiva has that power to ask Krishna, what should I remember? Right? All right. Next verse, please. Beautiful purports. I wish we have a lot of time. We had like 4 classes per chapter. It would have been perfect. So here Krishna is, these are the last 5 verses where Krishna talks about the kind of jivas in this world. Kindly repeat after me. Dvavimau purushau loke ksharaschakshara evacha ksharaha sarvani bhutani kutastokshara uchyate. Online, please. Sumitra Mataji, I'll call out.
Translation. There are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible.
Thank you. And this is 2 or 3 verses is Srila Prabhupada's explanation of, or Krishna mentioning the Vedanta Sutra. He says there are 2 kinds of jivas in this world. One are the fallible, who are struggling with the material world, and they are infallible. Krishna gives a very nice definition of who is infallible. Kutasto. Kutastha means one who is one with God in intention. Who is one with God in intention is infallible. But as long as we are in this material world, then you are fallible. Because your knowledge is covered by Maya or material nature. You identify yourself as a body and then you suffer in this world and your knowledge remains incomplete. But one who is firmly one with God, Kutasto, he is Akshara Uchyate. Dvaimau Purusho Loke, Ksharas Chakshara Evacha. He says initially there is Kshara and Akshara. Then if you look up, Ksharaha Sarvani Bhutani. Ksharaha means infallible. Sarvani Bhutani means you are struggling with the material world. Kutastha means one with God. Akshara. They are Akshara Uchyate, infallible. So you are one with God in intention, then you are infallible. Because, and it's a fact, as we surrender more and more to Krishna, then our knowledge, our intentions, our actions become completely guided by Krishna. And because Krishna is infallible, those jivas who are completely surrendered to Krishna are also infallible. Next verse, please. Uttama purushastvanyah paramatmetyudahritah yo lokatrayamavishya bibartavyaya ishvaraha. All right. Anybody online? If not, we'll go back to...
I can read, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them.
Krishna distinguishes himself. He can, Kshara and Akshara means those jivas infallible are as good as Krishna. Krishna says no. Besides these two, there is another. Uttamaha Purusha stu Anyaha means there is another. There is Kshara and Akshara. Apart from that, there is another. That is me. Which means I am beyond fallible and infallible. Because fallible and infallible are jivas. I am not a jiva. I am Paramatma. And that Krishna says, that person who is different from Kshara and Akshara is called Paramatma, who is maintaining everyone. And Krishna is so clear in establishing his supremacy in Gita. And that's why it is called, this chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. There is a Purusha who is Uttama, who is the supreme. The yoga of the supreme person is the 15th chapter. And that is Krishna. Besides the fallible and infallible, there is another. Uttamaha Purushastvanya Paramatmeti. He is called Paramatmeti. Yo lokam trayamavishya vibha. That I am the one who is entering into everyone and maintaining them. That is power of Paramatma. Yes, Prabhu Laksh. So you should speak the mic because there are online audiences. They will be deprived of your golden question.
Thank you so much. So, Prabhuji, you said infallible. So Krishna doesn't fall in any of these categories. So that means he's Achyuta. Prabhupada says he's Achyuta. Achyuta means one who doesn't fall. So that means he's infallible. Achyuta. So that correlates with the...
Yes. You're making a point that buttresses what we are saying, that gives credence, or is there a question? I'm still a little...
Clarify.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Achyuta, perfect. Yeah, he can never fall. There is an exceptional case where aksharas might fall. Means even the infallible might fall, but it is exceptionally rare. And that happens in the case of Jay and Vijay. Somehow or other, they are infallible, but they fell down just for 3 births in this material world. So the point of that incidence is that there is no way a jiva is equal to Krishna at any point of time. Krishna is always the supreme, and jiva, because here it's a very fascinating story. If we had time, we would go at length into Jay and Vijay. But the Lord says that, look, Brahmanas, who are the 4 Kumaras, cursed you. I had the power to counteract and say, don't curse them. It would have been fine, but I let them stay. Which means that I am, same thing. Besides these two, there is another supreme person who is beyond fallible and infallible. And that is me. Now, Vishnu also highlights that point. He's never at any point of time subject to fall down by his own material energy. It's quite impossible. All right, next verse. Yasmat ksharamati Akshārādapi chottamah Atosmi loke vedecha pratitaha purushottamaha. Who can read, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Yes, please.
Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person.
There is no more emphatic statement by Sri Krishna about his supremacy. There's nowhere. And nobody can counter. Oh, Krishna said that. Let me also add that I am also the most infallible. There is no I am also the most infallible. Krishna says I am the infallible, I am the supreme. Nobody can question that statement. Because it is mentioned that natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate natat samaschabhyadikascha drishyaye, which means nata sama. Samaha means equal, nor abhyadika means above. Krishna is that absolute person, and he himself says, the Vedas say that everybody declares that Krishna, you are the supreme, and Krishna himself is saying, I am the supreme. There is no dichotomy. And here there are two things. It is says, atosmi loke vedecha. Loke means there are scriptures that are created. For example, they are something called Puranas, we know. Purana, okay. So there are in the scriptures, there are Vedas. Vedas have 6 corollaries with them, and they have Upanishads, which describe the impersonal Brahman. And then there are Puranas and Itihasas. They are histories. The Puranas are 108 Puranas. The famous chief, and for us, is Bhagavata Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, apart from the Puranas, which is compiled by Vyasa, there are something called Sthala Puranas, which means if you actually go to a particular major temple, they will start giving you stories about the deity there and all the pastimes he did. I had never heard of this. Where do you get this from? This is Sthala Purana, which means very unique to that particular deity and that particular temple, and that might not broadly be covered in the Puranas. Sthala Purana. So Sthala Puranas are something of this earth, because Lord manifested something on this earth, and there were Puranas that were generated. So atosmi loke. Loke means scriptures of this world and Vedas. Both I am the supreme. Krishna is covering everything. Oh, in Sthala Purana, Durga Devi is the supreme. That's what is mentioned. How is Krishna supreme? He says, no. Atosmi loke. In this world, whatever your Puranas say, Vedas, whatever they say, apaurushaya, I am the supreme. So Krishna is making very emphatic. Atosmi loke vedecha pratitaha purushottama. That is, I am the Purushottama. And he is very clear. Aham. So that is why we worship, that is why Krishna is said the supreme personality of Godhead. Because there is no truth superior to, or there is no truth greater than him. Last 2 verses. Kindly repeat after me. Yo mameva masammudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Okay, online, last chance online.
I can read, Prabhuji.
All right, Malati Mataji, go for it.
Translation. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata.
Thank you. So Krishna is making it clear. You know me, you will know everything. If you don't know me, then you might know Vedas. but you are still short of your understanding of Vedas. Because Vedas declare, I am the Supreme. You haven't come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme, which means your Vedas are, you have a shortcoming in the understanding of Vedas. That's why it is mentioned, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam cha Yadahaitukam. It is mentioned that one who worships Krishna with unalloyed love, for him, Vairagya and Gyan, they automatically follow. And Krishna is telling the same thing. Yomam eva masam mudho, there's no doubt. Janati Purushottamam, they fully realize that I am Purushottama. Yomam eva masam mudho janati Purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. He says that he knows everything. So if you know Krishna, then you know everything. If you don't know Krishna, even if you know everything, you don't know everything. The first everything is in quotes. And what happens as a result of this? So next verse, please. Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam maya nagha etad budva buddhiman syad krita kritayascha bharata. Satya Sankalpa Prabhu, please complete off.
This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection.
Thank you. So this is the beauty of Purushottam Yoga. In 20 verses, Krishna lays out, it's a very, very condensed but deep. He lays out what is this material world. He lays out on how to get out of it. He lays out his own position or his own planets. And then he kind of says what are the types of jivas, how the jivas transmigrate from one body to another, and what is the essence of Vedas. In 20 verses, Krishna just packs up every single thing and how he declares he is the Supreme. So this is why it is called the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Purushottama Yoga. Om Tat Sat Idi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastri Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottama Yogo Nama Pancha Dashamodhyaya. So that is why it is called Purushottama Yoga. And let's do. I think we went through the purport, but let me do the first paragraph just to give you a flavor. The Lord clearly explains here that this is the substance of all revealed scriptures, and one should understand this as it is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. In other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service, everyone can become freed from all contamination of the modes of material nature. Devotional service is a process of spiritual understanding. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot exist. Devotional service to the Lord and the Lord himself are one and the same because they are spiritual. Devotional service takes place within the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is said to be the sun, and the ignorance is called darkness. Where the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Therefore, whenever devotional service is present under the proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, there is no question of ignorance. So you can see how this particular verse is the summum bonum of and the explanation here. Any questions, comments, concerns we have about? Yes, Kennedy, question number 2.
Hare Krishna. So By understanding that last verse, number 20, can we understand this chapter to be the how to become infallible, like as it's described in the earlier verses?
Yes.
Thank
Yes. Because we are doing two things. One thing is I am seeking out God in a positive way, and I am asanga shastrena. I am trying to detach myself from this material world. So it's a two-pronged process that I am seeking out to become the infallible. Oftentimes, the one-pronged process is this material world is Maya or illusion. Let me just detach. But there is no positive intent behind this, to attach yourself to the Supreme. So this is a two-pronged process. So yes, we will become infallible. Thank you. Yes, Laksh.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
So, Prabhuji, I want to just clarify, like you told a story also of a Brahmana who wanted to be a cow and dog. Also, I read recently that what happens to unsuccessful yogis. So they get next birth, they are born in a family of Brahmanas, or very rare birth it is. Also, you told about Jaya Vijaya, and there is an example comes of King Bharat, who got a body of deer, and then Jad Bharat.
Yeah.
So I just want to confirm that these instances are for us to understand better what is attachment. Like Bharat got attached to deer. So these instances are just for us to understand better, or because they were so highly elevated yogis, and like he left everything and finally he got attached to a deer. So how can we understand this and just learn from their experiences?
I'll give quickly in a nutshell for those who are unfamiliar with the story, is that Maharaj Bharat was an exalted king who ruled and actually 7 islands, and at one point of time, and or 9 islands. But then he gave up everything to become very focused and centered on God. And it was mentioned that he went to the forest and he used to worship Lord Vishnu in the form of Surya Narayan, or the sun god. And he became really exalted and elevated to the point that he was almost on the level of perfection, Akshara. From Kshara to, he was almost at Akshara level. But then, long story short, he got attached to a baby deer. And he thought it was Providence who put... he was in the river and he was offering his oblations to the water like they do in the river. And there was a pregnant deer that was being chased by the tiger. And terrified of the tiger, the pregnant deer jumped over the river where Maharaj Bharat was actually doing the oblations. And midway through that flight, she gave birth to the baby deer that was very closely, fell at Maharaj Bharat's personalities in the vicinity. And she jumped across the river, she went to the cave, and she died of the shock. It was too traumatic for her. You gave birth to the child, you don't know where the child is. From her perspective, the baby deer was drowned in the water and just dead, and she was herself traumatic, so she died. Maharaj Bharat observed all this, and he thought, now destiny has placed this deer in my care, and he started taking care of the deer. But the problem was that his mind and attention and focus shifted to deer. In fact, Bhagavatam goes at length. He would be meditating, but always thinking of the deer. If he couldn't see the deer in the near vicinity, then he would be anxious. Maybe my deer has become very disgusted with me and left me, or maybe a tiger ate the deer, so on and so forth. And then in that consciousness, he gives up that body of Maharaj Bharat, thinking of deer, and the next birth he becomes a deer. But here is the beauty. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna gives the remembrance of why he was a deer in the next life. He remembers the past life and remembers why I became a deer in this life. And then he feels disgusted with that himself. He says, I wasted my whole life. And then, of course, in the next life, after giving up the deer's life, he becomes an exalted soul called Jada Bharat. And it's a whole story in Bhagavatam, in 5th canto, for those who are interested. The lessons acharyas have told us is, even technically speaking, Maharaj Bharat was on the level of bhava, one step below prema. That's why I said he was almost akshara. It is mentioned how even on the level of bhava, there is still the trace of material contamination. And that contamination, if it is given prominence, can take over one's whole spiritual life. Prabhupada says that we have minute independence, and we always have a tendency to misuse it. So Maharaj Bharat's example kind of shows that. Some acharyas describe he willfully gave up to show to the whole world, to set an example of how careful one should be in one's spiritual life. So those are the two explanations given by our previous acharyas. But the hope for us, Laksh, is that devotional service never perishes. Even if I become a deer, I will still remember Krishna by grace of Krishna. Imagine you have no concept of God, and then you become an animal. It is such a major demotion in the human form of life. But with Krishna consciousness, even if I become a deer, I will not forget Krishna. So that is the lesson we learn from this. That is a great hope for us, actually. To never give up the path of bhakti, even though we might sometimes fall down. Is that helpful? One other example you gave, you said about Jada Bharat, and in your question you mentioned one more example, I forget.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was really helpful. So you also said, shared a story of Brahmana, like who got...
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to confirm on this. Like Prabhupada, I read in 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that a yogi who has practiced for a long time but still is unsuccessful will get a body of a Brahmana in a very highly esteemed family. And he also gives an example like his Guru Maharaj. He is one of the best examples he gave. So if, like you said, the Brahmana who was absolutely perfect in his family life, everything, so why he got the body of like cow or an animal?
Because it was his desire. He couldn't overcome the material attachments. The material world is so strong that once Indra was condemned to become a hog, you know the story of pig. And when the curse ended, he said, come back to your heavenly planet. No, this I like it here. The whole point goes to show how material nature is so deluding. That perfection in the sense like the Brahmana did the duty perfectly to get salvation, but he did not get that extreme attachment to Krishna as compared to the material world. Just like Jada Bharat or Maharaj Bharat, he had the high level of attachment, but if there is even the slightest contamination of attachment, that will hold on to you. Mayadevi will say, you gave me a hook, a web hook. I'm going to use that. So, one of the things is that we chant Hare Krishna for so many years, and why is it that, I have no change? There is no change at all. Is it even going to work? Is it fantasy? It is mythology? Is it like, what am I doing here? Please understand for a fact that because my attachment is so deep-rooted to this material world, compared to what it takes with non-bhakti yoga processes to cleanse that attachment, bhakti yoga is a much more effective, efficient, and a fast result-oriented yoga. At least in Kali Yuga. In this age, there is no other way to purify oneself than bhakti yoga, because all other yogas are rather not having that strength. And the sixth chapter, please understand, this is with Dhyana Yoga. 6th chapter talks of Dhyan. Dhyan, there is always a problem of fall down. Arjuna himself says, Krishna, you're asking me to control the mind, it's greater than controlling the raging wind. And then you say yogi has to control the mind to become perfect. What if the yogi doesn't control? He'll fall down. But with Bhakti Yoga, because my mind is attracted to the lotus feet of Krishna, I can be Bharat who has a body of a deer but still remember Krishna. In the Dhyana Yoga, I'll become a long-term practice of Dhyana Yoga. I'll be born in a family of transcendentalists. Or after a short-term practice of Dhyana Yoga, I'll be born in a rich mercantile family. Prabhupada says that if you are born in a rich mercantile family, there is every possibility you will again forget Krishna. So it's a very risky process compared to Bhakti Yoga, which is risk-free. So that's the reason. There are slight subtle differences between those two. Yes, please.
Sorry if I'm asking too much.
No, you're not. We please ask.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, as you just explained in the verse, Krishna gives power of remembrance, even knowledge. So the person who's a yogi or who's a perfect Brahman or who's a good, like a pure devotee, he gets to know that he is going to go to Goloka, like it is called as Swarupa Siddhi. So he gets to know that he is going to go there as Krishna gives him knowledge. So although a little of, like, he has performed devotional service, so he gets to know that, okay, I'm going to go there, or no, it's a long way to go. And also Swarup Siddhi also tells that he gets to know what his original form is in Goloka. So
So your question is like whether it's a yogi, brahmana, or pure devotee, you are putting them in the same category. I would recommend don't. So let's, for the sake of argument, remove brahmana, remove yogi from your question. Let's talk of only pure devotee to start with, because that would more nicely tie in with your Swarup Siddhi question. Swarup Siddhi is, for those who are unfamiliar, is rediscovering our original position in spiritual world as a particular form of mellow of serving Krishna. I'll leave it at that. Swarup Siddhi is a long ways off because Anartha Nivritti is most important right now. Without Anartha Nivritti, Swarup Siddhi is something that might be really premature. If you strongly have Anartha Nivritti, and then, so in next semester, we will discuss, I'm so sorry, I'll just take it just a quick minute and I'll explain why as well. My daughter is traveling to India, and right now she's at Delhi airport, and she's clearing her immigration form, and she needs some information. So that's the reason why I took it. Sorry about that. Otherwise, I will never take it. So in the next semester, we'll do Nectar of Devotion, and Srila Rupa Goswami gives the order: Adau Shraddha, Tatau Sangha, Tatau Bhajana Kriya, Tatau Anartha Nivrittisya, Tatau Nishta Ruchistata, Asaktis Tatau Bhava, Tata Premabhyudanchati, Sadhakanam Ayam Premna, Pradur Bhavet Bhavet Kramaha. He says first there is faith, Adau Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, which is association of saintly people. Then Bhajana Kriya, which means we perform our activities of hearing and chanting. Then from that comes Anartha Nivritti, which means unwanted desires will be overcome. From there comes Asakti, is attachment. So then Ruchi is taste. Then Nishta is, at that point you're firmly fixed up. Then from Nishta comes Bhava and Prema. So at Prema level, then we can talk of Swarup Siddhi. When you are in Anartha Nivritti, it is premature. and actually please don't fall for this that, some people might say, I know what is your Swarup in spiritual world and I'll give it to you. That is something Prabhupada and even our present Guru Parampara don't encourage that much as well, following the footsteps of Prabhupada. I just wanted to leave it at that. Is that okay? It's 3 already. I'm so grateful. It is December 22nd. People will love to just spend 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. cuddled in a blanket, reading a book or do whatever they need to do. But you took time to come for this Bhakti Sastri class and for this great austerity. I pray that may Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Narsinghadev and Sri Mahaprabhu be very kind upon you. And thank you for considering our request. I will see you all in the next year, January 5th. We'll have the second class. We'll do 16th. Exciting 16th chapter. The divine and the demoniac natures. First 2-3 verses, Krishna talks of divine, then he spends the entire thing about demoniac natures. And you will get some flavor from other religions where God can be like, you'll get a little bit of flavor. Krishna is very merciful. And then we have 17th chapter and 18th 2 chapters. So with that, we should be done. Next year, as I mentioned in my WhatsApp note, we'll strictly follow the things. Once we set the deadline, we'll not change it unless I leave my body for some reason. Even then, I'll make sure that somebody else takes care of it. So the dates will be the dates. Any other questions or comments? I'm so grateful. Thank you for your participation. And I would like to acknowledge few of the Bhakti Shastri volunteers. Shamalangi Mataji for being the admin. And then Balmukunda Prabhu for sending the homework. Koladi Prabhu and Rajivan Prabhu for taking classes early on in the year. And then Akhil, Satya Sankalpa and Krishangi Mataji for manning the booth. So thank you. Sorry? Exam timeline. So we have 4 more classes. 16, 17, 18, 2 classes. Because 18th is 78 verses. Yeah. It's going to take 2 classes. So then after that, I'm looking at exam sometime Feb end, March 1st or 2nd week. So we do have time. Gaur Purnim is March 13th. So again, we haven't finalized yet, but we can do it the weekend after Gaur Purnim. Because the before Gaur Purnim, there is a lot of things happening in the temple, and devotees are involved in services and so on and so forth. So the weekend after Gaur Purnim or the weekend after. I mean, Gaur Purnim is on Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, you can do it on a Sunday, or skip that Sunday and then move it to the next Sunday. So something like that. That is where we are looking at the timeline. Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you so much, yes, Pandit Prabhu.
No, thank you, Mata. Thank you for being there for every class. And I'll see you all next year. Happy holidays, and wish you a very happy and Krishna conscious New Year.
Yeah, you too.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhya.